Hello, everybody. We were just informed that we can no longer bring any more chairs because we'll break fire code, which is actually good because this is a spicy session. It's going to get very hot in here, so we might break fire code regardless. But thank you for everyone coming. It means so much to us. And we had the opportunity to speak here at Outlook, and there's a lot of ways we could have done this, but what we want to do is invite three great panelists up here to just talk about the future. And we thought that was the best way to get some input from everyone and just kind of talk about our industry in general. So what we're going to do today is have some spicy takes, have some fun conversation. Please engage. We'll have a great Q&A at the end. My name is Jeffrey Harrison. I'm very excited to be here. I'm from Rovertown. We build apps for gas stations and convenience stores, and we have a lot of great customers in the crowd, so thank you again for the support. I'm joined by Peter Rasmussen from Convenience and Energy Advisors. So Peter is former Wawa, former Sheetz. He's got a lot of history on the battleground of convenience stores, and he's going to be here weighing in. Peter, do you want to add anything from your background?
No, you did it pretty good.
Okay, great.
We'll save it for the spicy stuff.
Sure. Christina Anderson is on my right. Christina is from my hometown of St. Louis.
Yes.
And do you want to share a little bit about Midwest Petroleum?
Well, I work for the best company in the St. Louis area, Midwest Petroleum Company. We have 57 locations, getting ready to open our 58th. And we are, of course, a C-store chain, and very excited to be here.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, Billy Kohlmeyer from Stinker Stores.
Hey everybody, Billy Kohlmeyer. I'm Director of Marketing for Stinker Stores. We have about 110 sites across Idaho, Colorado, and Wyoming. Super excited to be here with you today.
Thank you. So we're going to kick this off, and we're going to dive right into some hot takes. So we kind of laid out, the goal of today is just kind of go over some questions in general and just talk about the industry and get some feedback from our panelists. So the first question that we kind of outlined was the spiciest marketing you've ever done at your convenience store retailer. We're going to kick it off with Billy for this one. This is one of my favorites.
So this is a billboard that we put up near one of our newer sites in Grand Junction. It's currently our newest flagship location in Colorado. There's a digital fuel pricer in the right corner now, which you're not seeing there. This kind of came from collaboration.
Hold on, sorry for the feedback. Tom, can you grab them? Okay, I think we're good. Keep going.
Okay, so hey again. This was a collaboration with one of our co-owners and vice presidents. We were working on different kind of pieces that we could put in the store just to show the moxie that we think our brand embodies. And we had a sign that said this within the store. We decided to take it outside, put it on a billboard. We're getting a lot of attention for it. The customers love it. And an iteration of this, we have wayfinding signage hanging inside of the store now. So on the back of the wayfinding signage that says restrooms, we have this logo and the 5 stars as well. So we're trying to bring it into as many places as we can.
I told you it's a spicy session. We're going to get feedback here. Yeah, so tell us more. You came up with this concept, right? Is that correct?
It was a collaboration. I have some great people on the team.
Don't be so modest.
The billboard piece, I have a great digital marketing specialist and a marketing specialist, and then once again, our co-owner and vice president is pretty heavily involved in this. So it was a group effort. We took a chance, put it on the billboard, and we received great feedback so far. There's not a week that goes by where customers aren't writing in either on social media channels, Google reviews, to let us know that they really like this. So I'm pretty excited.
So this was this a new build, or was this a raise and rebuild? Can you tell us about kind of this location in general?
Sure.
Because you guys did a lot with not only just the billboard, obviously, but you guys, I believe, had a race car there, I believe, right? And a couple other unique things when you opened the store. Definitely.
So this was a scrape and rebuild site. Came back about a 6,000 square foot store, huge trucker island, very spacious. Prior to the scrape and rebuild, it was a little bigger than what I would call kind of a typical kiosk, convenience store, gas station. We wanted to relaunch in a big way, so we had a grand opening event in early May. We have a Stinker branded race car that races right outside of kind of like Nash track level. great, turnout from the community. We did a founders fuel pricing event. We were founded in 1936, so for 2 hours of the event, we rolled our fuel prices back to $1.93 and 6/10 of a penny. So created a lot of excitement. Thought the cops were going to shut us down a few times, but it was all good.
Now, I'm not going to let you off the hot seat yet. See what I did there? So tell us more about the food service inside the store. You guys have a new brand inside. Can you walk us through that?
We do. About 2.5 years ago, we developed our own proprietary food service program. It's called Pete's Eats. Pete is the name of the skunk that you see up there.
Polecat Pete, right?
Polecat Pete, yes. So that's where the Pete comes from in Pete's Eats. Fresh made in-house every day, fresh cracked egg breakfast sandwiches, burritos, chopped salads, wraps, Angus burgers, Angus hot dogs, as well as a lot of prepared foods we're doing through the cold case, like some Chinese food, General Tso's chicken, orange chicken. The food program itself has been very well received, and when you walk in this store, it's an open kitchen concept, so we wanted to make sure the customers saw the theater of the food. So every piece of branding, every piece of design, every element kind of ties into the broader purpose of being a food and beverage destination.
Do you have any spicy food at Pete's Eats?
We do. We have a spicy chicken sandwich, is one of our top sandwich sellers right now. I'd say that's the biggest thing, and we're working on some development for some exciting things to come in the fall as well as the spring.
Great. Well, luckily you've been let out of the hot seat, and we're going to move to Christina. So what's the spiciest marketing you've ever done at Midwest Petroleum?
Okay, so it's definitely the Deets Nuts commercial. So I take it by the laughter in the room. Several of you have seen this commercial.
It's
You
so
remember
funny.
It was two guys sitting on the couch, and they kept saying the name of the brand over and over again, and I don't know why that's funny, but everybody thought it was. So it was a Super Bowl commercial. So what we did in college towns, we service several college towns, and we have like clusters of stores in those towns. We played the commercial on a loop in the stores. So everyone loved it. Our sales went through the roof. The beer sales went through the roof. We sold all kind of Deets Nuts. We couldn't hardly keep the product on the shelves at that point in time. And then, interestingly, our cheese sales also went up as well. Affinity sales, I guess you're getting sausage and cheese. But it was very effective in the markets that we had it in. So we tried to, put it in other markets as well. Not as effective in family stores. So just going to throw that out there. You may not want to do it when, the biggest group of people that come in are your Sunday school crew. Not the right demographic for this particular commercial, but our college towns loved it.
You're not off the hot seat yet. Tell us, you have a really interesting food concept at one of your stores, Smash Burgers. Can you kind of talk through that and why you went that route?
I can. So it starts with the fact that we bought a C-store that kind of looks like a log cabin, and it's surrounded on three sides by cornfields. So the consumer base for this particular store is farmers, farming families, farming community, and truckers that are driving through.
Did you know that this is actually the nearest store to my house growing up?
Really?
Yes, I grew up on a horse farm in Southern Illinois, so this is actually very near and dear to my
Oh,
heart.
that's
Keep
so
going.
adorable. I love that so much. Because, really, it looks like a log cabin. It's the cutest store we have,
is a great
right?
store.
So
Route 3.
It is on Route
Yep.
3. I'm very proud of that. So, anywho, this particular C-store has an actual kitchen, like an actual little
You inherited that,
restaurant
right? You
inside.
inherited that,
Right.
yeah.
We did not build it. We also inherited the farmers' food preferences. And they wanted a particular sausage. They were serious. They were going to boycott our store if we took out that farm fresh sausage that they were used to. So we had to tailor our entire menu
Yep.
around the taste and specifications of the consumers in that area, which were the local farm community.
Yep.
So we talked to several of them and said, we need a dinner option. What would you actually eat? And they told us, we just like burgers and fries. We're meat and potatoes. So we started Dottie's Smash Burger. And Dottie's is named after the owner of our company, Don McNutt. His mother is Dottie. So he started several different restaurants for Midwest with her recipes. So we have now the QSR version of that, and that is Dottie's Express. So now we have Dottie's Smash Burger, and it's absolutely delicious. So if you're ever in Redbud, Illinois, come see our little Log Cabin C-store and get a burger.
Please tell me you have like a jalapeno cheddar burger of some sort, some sort of spicy burger.
You can ask, but I think it's pretty much a little milder for our farmers. I'm not sure if they want the jalapenos on their burgers.
That's fair. So Peter Rasmussen, of course, goes above and beyond in our slide deck here, and he has 2 examples of where he has experience with spicy marketing. Can you tell us about this first Size Doesn't Matter? Is this from 1970? How long were you working on this?
Yeah, so this one's an oldie but goodie. So I believe this one was 2001. So you certainly see that Sheetz is bold in their
Were you
marketing
12?
today.
How old were you?
Maybe late teenage years, early 20s. But this was a campaign to promote coffee and grow it, and obviously there was a lot of consumer feedback on the message behind the message. But this was pre-social media days, so.
Okay. Was it a successful campaign? Give us some background on how it performed.
Yeah, successful campaign. Growth to the coffee category, and certainly retention out of that.
I mean, you were probably in the war room when this happened. What was the conversation? Were people against it, for it? I mean, why did you go forward with it? What made you guys push this?
Yes, I wasn't in market at the time of this one, admittedly. I was in operations, so we got to enjoy all the customer feedback on the campaign.
Okay, now you got a big line here. What's going on at Wawa?
Yeah. So this is a real photo. So with Wawa, in expanding with Florida, what was spicy is the efforts to grow food service. So sometimes you hear, I want to start a food program, or I tried, and maybe it worked, or maybe it didn't work. Even a brand, though, that's a powerhouse like Wawa, when it goes from market to market, it's not just assumed that you're going to sell a lot of great food. Mm-hmm. So a lot of aggressive efforts, such as a couple weeks of free coffee, 30,000 plus mailers for stores for free offers, deep discount fountain offers. And what's interesting, too, is this photo's from Orlando, and at that time—
one of the first stores? Or not?
Yep, this was the first one.
This was the first store, okay.
Yeah, and at that time, the big splash was 5 stores in 5 weeks, and did it again in Tampa. Wow. And then the bright idea came, well, because the stores are so crowded, what if we did 3 in a day? So we did it in Fort Myers, and then all 3 were nearly just as crowded, but there was more resources at the time. But it's a good lesson, because if you want to grow a food brand, you got to have a marketing tolerance to really put out the trial of offer, so you can ultimately build the customer habit.
What year was this?
This one was 2012.
Okay, so put yourself back 11 years ago. Are these customers just people in Florida that are interested? Are these people that have ties to Wawa? Like, what kind of experience was it when you were in there? People just excited that the brand from Pennsylvania came down south, or flew south, if you will?
Yeah, you had a mix depending on the area that you were in. So there was certainly always a small amount of affinity, some areas more than others. But you also just at the time had a lot of general confusion, such as, what is this? How does it work? Touchscreen ordering wasn't widely used at the time. How do I order a sandwich? Do I pay here? So a lot of first timers that came in.
Okay, yeah, I love it. No, that's fantastic. Great, so we're going to keep moving on. One of the things that we get a lot of questions about when we talk to retailers is about loyalty programs. And in general, are they overhyped? Obviously, loyalty programs serve a purpose, especially with unlocking funding from CPGs, tobacco loyalty money, that's all there. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to start with Peter and just keep you on the hot seat here. Can you kind of talk about your experience with loyalty programs and what you think about them in general?
Yeah, I think—
Because everyone has a loyalty program.
Yeah, so I think there's varying degrees of execution on a loyalty program, right? Does it make sense for all brands? I don't know. Maybe, right? I think to do a loyalty program, to have a loyalty program, that's a first step. But then ultimately, what do you want from it? Is the app easy to use? Is it rewarding, and is it personalized? But then there's a balance too, right? Because when you make it rewarding, you also need to make money off of it and ultimately make more money, the goal of the program. So, I think having a loyalty program is absolutely critical, but how you do it, and then when you think about how you do it, not just looking at industry benchmarks, but looking at common apps that people use, that ultimately helps take you forward.
Okay, great. Billy, we'll continue with you. You've got some experience here with loyalty programs. What is your take here?
I don't think they're overhyped, but I do think that you have to have the right complexity and the strategy to make sure that you're creating that seamless user experience. Making sure that it's more than just something to capitalize on the funding from vendors and whatnot. You want it to be something that somebody's going to use every day, give them different reasons to use it, but also make it simple and easy to use. So I don't think they're overhyped, but I do think that there's a lot of consideration and time and planning that has to go into launching one.
Yeah, and that's very exciting for you guys. Now, Christina, you are in probably the most interesting position in this question. Who is your loyalty provider?
Rovertown.
Well, no, we're actually the app provider. Who's the loyalty? Yes.
Our loyalty provider.
Explain that. That's very interesting for the audience.
Fastback Rewards. We actually created our own loyalty program, like the software.
Yeah, you
so
guys
we
have a
created it
developer
in-house.
Yeah.
We do have a developer in-house. And it's very interesting because we can make a change on the fly to the software if we need to in order to make it perform differently, like if there's some kind of new concept we want to test as far as marketing is concerned. And we can be very specific and tailored in how we structure the loyalty program, but that comes with its own set of complexities because you are limited in bandwidth when you are running that loyalty program in-house. And we also have to reach out pretty broad in order to make sure that we're creative enough, because if we are the ones that are, providing all of the creative energy and it's just us, this is just a handful of people, we want to make sure that we're staying fresh with our ideas and staying close to our customers. So we've really been, trying to spend more time in the field with our customers and, observing their habits so that we're putting things into the software that they actually want to use.
So I'm going to ask you a spicy question. Do you think developing your own loyalty program is worth it? Honestly?
That is an excellent question. I say it depends on the day you ask me that question. Just being honest, there are some days when I'm like, oh, I love the fact that we can personalize this. I love the fact that if one of us wakes up with an idea, we can go and test it out, try it out, and get instant customer feedback. And then there's other days when I'm like, why are we doing this to ourselves? Who can we put in between us and the program so that we have another layer between us to help filter out some of these ideas and to help us scale faster? Because again, if we have, our one software developer, that's a very small team. So there are pros and cons. And software developers are not normal human beings. They are different. So
they're still human beings.
They're still human beings, and they're still very valuable, right? But they are different. So we have to manage them differently. We have to give them their creative inputs differently. So you have to wear, various different hats when managing that different of a team in order for us to, execute this program.
Until we met you guys, the only other retailer I was familiar with that did their own loyalty program back in the day was Maverick. So they actually built their own point of sale, built their own loyalty program. Eventually, they moved to another provider, but I think it's pretty admirable you guys are still moving forward, and you guys are doing some really innovative things, which is great.
We are, and we have a customer, that we are, slowly trying to branch out there. So it's an exciting time for Fastback Rewards.
Okay, so the next one is actually, I promise this question is going to get a little spicy because we actually had a pre-call on this and we had some debate on this. So I'm going to start with Billy on this. What is the most overrated retail technology today?
From my perspective, and I'm hoping Peter doesn't kick this chair out from under.
We could end up in a brawl right now.
Kiosks.
Wow, ordering kiosks, you say. Interesting, Peter.
Well, I want to hear Billy's perspective first.
Okay.
So.
I think that ordering kiosks can work in the right environment. However, I don't think it's the end-all be-all. And I think a lot of people, maybe like 7 to 10 years ago, saw what Sheetz, Wawa, some of these other best-in-class retailers were doing with kiosks and wanted to emulate that without understanding, similar to loyalty programs, what goes into that. From the components you have to keep on the line and hope that you're going to go through that before they expire and whatnot. So for me, and in my experience over the last 12 or 13 years, I'm more of a fan of a very robust hot and cold grab-and-go program with the option for made to order where be needed.
Okay, before we let Peter respond, what do you want to weigh in on this situation? What do you think about ordering kiosks?
Choose your team now.
I know.
Okay.
I'm out of this too, by the way. So.
Well, I would have to agree. If the signage is not done properly and there's not proper instructions for the customers, ordering kiosks are very confusing. I've seen senior citizens totally confused by ordering kiosks and kids. So if the seniors and the kids are confused, who's left here? So we've got to be, very specific with signage if we really want people to engage with these ordering kiosks. And I've seen customers literally abandon them to go and find a sales associate. And if you're staffing thinking that the kiosk is going to take on most of that POS for you, that may not necessarily work for customer interactions.
It's just interesting how much of a high adoption rate it is, obviously, on the East Coast. But look at Midwest, look at the West Coast, you don't see it as often. What are your thoughts on this?
I think if you follow the money on it, you'll find a lot of success with it in a lot of different ways. So kiosks are also in a lot of different formats, right? McDonald's has it now, you see in airports, you see in all different kind of places. And you have to put in the effort to teach your customers how to use it depending on the part of the world that you may be operating in. However, I believe what you'll find is as you roll it out, you statistically can absolutely have an impact on reducing your labor model because you don't have someone who's physically taking the order. And then what you'll find as well, if you build it out correctly, there's different opportunities to have upsell, and you'll find that your average transaction size grows with it as well. And then as technology has advanced, there's different platforms, even that work with the big three in our industry, where you could tie, when I say the big three, I mean the big three point of sale, where you could tie loyalty to it, you could tie personalization, you can do all sorts of things. I think, from a customer service standpoint, when you go through the change management, you don't want to force your customers to use it, but if you teach them to use it, I guess just from my past experience in the most urban or the most rural parts of the country, there's adoption to it, and you're going to save money on labor, you're going to increase your basket size, and you're ultimately going to grow with the kiosk. So I would encourage you to try it.
So before we get to the next question, we need you to answer this because obviously your answer is a little different. So what do you think is the most overrated retail technology today? I know you see a lot of new tech.
I would say just walk out. And
Wow.
and that might be controversial, but the reason why I say it is I do believe in the long run, just walk out will be the solution, right? But I think that today, in its current format, it's a high expense to do it.
You're talking about autonomous checkout or just the Amazon solution?
Autonomous. So I grab my stuff and I just leave. So not self. I'm a fan of self-checkout, to be clear. But I don't think you can get a return on it. And then I think from a store design standpoint, if you put it in and you have the choice of doing autonomous or going to a register, you may find yourself having to invest in even more labor just to show the customers how to use the model. I absolutely believe it's the future, but I think like all things, just the technology needs to get cheaper, so that way it becomes, it makes more fiscal sense.
Great. Okay, so let's just talk about the industry in general. So we're in an industry that is steady, but are we outdated? What do you guys think? I mean, what are we doing to kind of get out of that stigma? So we'll start with Christina.
Are we outdated? I don't think so, and here's why. I do believe that we are an integral part of people's lives. People make their habits and routines around coming to see us and coming to see the people in our stores. And I think as communities change, as people's lives change, they become further and further removed from community, from people, and they come in our store to say good morning to someone. They come in our store and they talk about their grandkids still. I see this every day. So I believe it's more than just the chip bag or the candy bar when they come in our stores. They're coming in, because Amazon can ship that to their house. Let's be honest, half of my life is shipped to my house on auto ship from Amazon,
True,
right? Let's be real. But people still come into our store so that they can have a personal conversation with someone, and that still matters. Self-checkout won't change that because there'll still be a person in the store that will engage with our customer, and our customers are looking for that.
Peter, give me a spicy take. What do we
Yeah.
got here? What about the industry?
It's not outdated as long as we adapt to it, right? So, there's no one-size-fits-all solution, but whether you're adding food service, whether you're, going multi-channel, whether you're doing something different to adapt, then you'll remain to be a part of everybody's lives. The reverse would be if you are a QSR, it's a lot harder to add gas, right? So if you're adapting to the future model, then by no means is our industry outdated. It's just evolving.
Billy?
I don't think I would say that it was outdated, but I don't think that there's full parity within the industry. Based on kind of chains, different formats, whether you're very heavy on QSR, proprietary food service and whatnot, store count, you have different levels of capital to invest in different types of new technology, to maybe like get away from an outdated concept. So I think a lot of people, many in this room, are investing in different ways and doing what works right for them. And just to echo what Peter said, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Your point there's super strong, I think, right? Like, it feels good to have the big, beautiful model with a robust food service offer, but you may have locations that are simple, maybe they're a little bit dated, but the economics of running the site and the rent or the mortgage on it, those are sites that print money for you.
And just to add to that, the mantra used to always be in real estate, location, location, location. And obviously we know our industry has the best location ever. Right? We have the prime spots, we have the corner stores, we have the right turn lane, we have that dominated. But what I'm seeing is an evolution from that physical realty to being more digital, right? So location, location, location. Are you on the home screen? Are you in the bottom four? Are you buried in a folder? So your app obviously is relevant to that as well, I think, because that's the way your consumers engage with you outside of just your physical presence, which is very important. And just to brag on Billy and his team at Stinker, I've seen a revolution over the last 3 years working with them where you guys had Polecat Pete, which I love to death, and his boxing gloves, but it was a very big logo. It was tough to replicate. You guys did a rebrand recently, which we saw on the billboard and the new store design. So can you kind of walk us through the logic of giving a refresh to your brand? Because I think that's relevant. Everyone knows these retail stores that have been around for generations and generations, but sometimes it's time to update.
Definitely. We have a strong brand in the markets we operate within, but we all kind of realized that it needed a refresh and a small update. So we put together a cross-functional team across the organization to understand, hey, what does Stinker mean to you? What does the brand mean? Every level of associate, from our hourly associates in the store all the way up to directors, district managers, and whatnot, worked with some outside consulting firms to help lead that charge as well. So we looked externally as well. And what we landed on was the brand was really strong. It really just needed to be updated, a little more three-dimensional. The way that Polecat Pete was used historically was very limited. It was more in a two-dimensional way. So we, went through this very long process that was certainly worth it in the end. But we came up with a brand Bible, basically all of our brand standards, the way that we talk about food, we have fonts, colors, the way that we talk about center store promos, the way that we would promote something on social media. And we're getting ready to relaunch all of our merch and swag with kind of the new version of Polecat Pete on it. And we probably get 10 emails a week from somebody that was passing through one of the states we're in asking for if they can buy a hoodie and whatnot. So there's a lot of excitement. And the customers, the kids love this new version of Polecat Pete. It's a little more animated, I would say. Really ties into the part of the country we're in. If you go into our stores, there's a lot of barnwood. There's a lot of tree lines, mountains. That's the area we're in, and we want people to feel like that store is a part of their community as well. And, it was just time to refresh and update, and we'll certainly kind of keep doing that as we move forward.
I think what you said about the brand Bible is so key. I would say from our customer base, only 20% of our customers have some sort of brand guidelines. We always ask for it when we're helping them develop their brand digitally, but unfortunately it's not prevalent. So I think that's a big takeaway in general, is just to kind of take it seriously, because you need to understand your identity, which is that forecourt experience.
I think I saw a photo once of you had Polecat Pete hugging the Sinclair dinosaur, which I thought it just brought the experience together in a cute way.
Yeah, because you guys are all branded. Right?
Yeah, all but one of our stores is branded under the Sinclair Fuel brand. And everybody that, partners with the major fuel brand knows that they typically have their own loyalty programs, and sometimes customers can't always differentiate between the name on the canopy versus kind of the name on the building. So, we're working with Sinclair as a, strategic vendor partner to make sure that we're just making sure that people can see us as a Stinker that sells Sinclair fuel, not simply a Sinclair where they got some really great food.
Yep, no, that's fantastic. We're gonna keep moving here. So what's the biggest gripe you have with vendors? So what's kind of, something that just, let it out right now. This is a room of therapy. I think you're interested in going first, so we'll let you, Christina.
So, we're just going to put it out there. Forgive us as we say these things. But when it comes to vendors, what we really need is a partner that knows us. You know, we understand that turnover is a real thing. We get it. We're in the C-store industry, and people do, you know, transition positions. But we would love it if a vendor had some kind of detailed notes that they left behind if there is
So
a
true.
transition
So
in
true.
personnel that's working on our account, one. And two, we would love a dedicated rep, right? We hate calling in and getting the level 1 person because they don't know, right? So then we have to train them, and then we get to the level 2 person, and it's about 45 minutes later. We have to teach them until we get to a specialist. You know, that help desk model is very outdated when we're dealing with an industry that moves at the speed of coffee in the morning, right? So we need to be able to get back functional with whatever it is that we're working on in that moment in order to take care of our customers so that they can go on about their day. So a dedicated support model is something that we are asking for at the top of our lungs, and that people take detailed notes so that there is a trail left behind if someone does transition roles.
Perfect. Billy.
Earlier, I mentioned strategic vendor partnerships, and I think sometimes the vendors are in the hustle and bustle too. They're trying to sell, they're trying to make a name for their company. So rather than doing something that's more tailored to each individual chain, taking into consideration the brand, the regionality, and whatnot, they try to sell this cookie cutter program, and they're not always open to customization. So for me, and over the last almost 3 years now, I would say, we've reached out to a lot of vendor partners we previously did business with, gave them opportunities to co-brand, rebrand, help us develop a proprietary brand. They didn't have, you know, the bandwidth or the desire to do so, and we moved pretty quickly, so we found somebody that can do that. So I would just say from the vendor standpoint, just where you can tailor and make custom programs for your retailers, that's going to certainly be appreciated.
Peter, we got a minute to add on. What do you think here?
Sure. So I think from sitting on both sides of the fence most of my life as a retailer, I think that, you know, as a vendor, a couple things. You know, one, you know, sales is always great, but then does that continuity of experience follow through implementation and account management? And then the other piece is that, you know, we may have our company goals and initiatives, right? But at the end of the day, we have to understand what the retailers are, and our conversations with them is helping them meet their goals, not necessarily ours.
That's fantastic. Thanks for adding on. Okay, so this is a fun, usually, you know, you hear about a lightning round. We're doing a fire round today. I'm going all in on this spicy marketing here. So we got a couple yes or no multiple choice questions. So we're going to get through these, and we're going to leave some time open for Q&A. We'd love to hear from you guys, and you've got a great panel here to kind of share your thoughts. So here we go. What's scarier? We're going to start with Peter. Dollar stores or QSRs? What's scarier to you? What keeps you up at night?
Choose a strategy on either. If you're competing with the QSR, do it right. If you're competing with the dollar store, you can't compete on every SKU, but just find a few key drivers. So
Billy?
I copped out on that question.
Billy, what about you in Boise and in Denver, Colorado? What scares you more, dollar stores or QSRs?
I would say dollar stores, just from a more macroeconomic trend. They've really expanded over the last 7 to 10 years, put in a lot of coolers and freezers for kind of meals that people can take home and pop in the microwave or the oven. I think it's only a matter of time before they start to expand into that fresher food space or something that's almost commissary based. A lot of the Dollar Generals down south are starting to put fuel in right now, so that probably worries me a little more than QSRs.
Wow. I learned something on this panel.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, dollar stores, because
Really?
there are some dollar stores in like the Louisiana area, and they're putting in fuel islands. That's terrifying, especially because it's kind of scary to walk through those stores if they don't put all the, you know, items on the shelf. So dollar stores, you don't have to keep expanding in the St. Louis market. You can go elsewhere.
I love it. Okay, so yes or no here. We're going to start with Billy. Would you regularly use EV chargers at a C-store? Please be honest with us.
If I drove...
Regularly used, just to reiterate.
If I drove an EV, I would use it for road trips. I think that where we see kind of the biggest adoption, rural areas that are on that road trip, you know, going toward Yellowstone, Grand Teton, we get tremendous traffic at the EV chargers we have there.
How many do you have? Like, what's the breakdown?
Only a couple stores
Only
right now, and only one store where we're really active. But we made a conscious decision not to put them in metro centers. We know a lot of people would probably prefer to charge at their house in
Denver,
downtown
yeah,
Boise or Denver Metro.
Great. What about you, Christina?
Probably not. You have to stay there too long. So I'm gonna go with no.
Okay, Peter, this is a topic very near and dear to your heart. So, what do you think of this?
I mean, I think in reality, if it's on a travel route, so there's a need state for it, absolutely. And then I'd just say, in a normal state, is there an experience there where I want to hang out for 20 or 30 minutes? So, depends.
Very good question. Okay, so what retailer are you most jealous of? And you can't say anything that has a mascot with a beaver involved. So, so we're going to start with Peter on this one.
Definitely OXO, 22,000 stores. And
Where are they based, just so everyone understands?
yeah, so based out of Mexico, 22,000 stores in the Americas. They just bought a chain in Europe as well. Just absolute machine in growth. They just opened 400 stores in the last quarter.
Wow, that's insane. That's great. Christina.
You know, I'm of two minds. I said Huck's when we were on our call because I just have a personal story with Huck's. It was like in my neighborhood. We rode our bikes there. And they're really expanding in our area right now. They do food service extremely well, beautiful big kitchens, beautiful car washes. Maybe Huck's. Yeah, I'm still explaining it. So probably Huck's.
Okay, not QT?
Well, you know, see, that was my other side, right? So maybe QT, because
QT is an operational monster.
QT is phenomenal in what they do. They do it very well. They go into a market and they corner it, and they, you know, if they make a decision on gas, everybody's going to follow. So I love that leadership ability that they have there. But Huck's, people like actually community-wide go and they choose to go to a Huck's. People go to a QT because of convenience, but people choose to go to a Huck's, and I want to be a retailer of choice.
That's great. Billy, can you add to this?
Yeah, so many great options. There's tremendous retailers in this industry. But full disclosure before this panel, Peter and Christina said Stinker would be their answer. No, seriously though, I would
Are
say
you most jealous of yourself?
the come and go market concept really stands out to me. I think they've done a tremendous design of the store, you know, the fuel canopy, the open spaces, the lighting, so, and just in what they offer, very food focused, you know, just very, very open, accommodating, and kind of design trends that are on brand right now.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. They're all great retailers. Okay, so kill one of these. Kill one, all right? Sweepstakes, punch cards, or coupons? We're gonna start with Peter.
Sweepstakes, gone.
Really? I like winning stuff. Really? You
Yeah,
don't
but
like
only
that
a few
stuff?
people win, so.
Okay, you're next, Christina.
Sweepstakes, sick of it.
Yes.
Come on, guys. Monopoly.
Come on,
No.
triple
This is
header.
how
It's sweepstakes for me. I
Yes.
agree. I think it's
you
it's
guys
a-
like
We
collaborate
didn't,
on
but
this?
I really appreciate your answers, so,
Okay.
We land
fair
on one
enough.
thing.
right.
Okay, fair enough. That was a quick lightning round. Okay, so this is the last one we have. So pick one. Would you guys work with a large established tech company or a small, like more of a up and coming tech company? If you had to pick, we'll start with Billy.
Is Rovertown small or large?
I don't know.
is
We're like
gonna ask the same
medium.
question.
So
I'd say
we're
medium.
out of this question.
Medium, I think there's advantages to both you guys. With a small company that's up and coming, it's not, you know, tested and vetted,
Yep.
so you don't always want to be kind of the beta for that. For larger companies, they can be a little more complex. It can take a long time to get resolutions. Maybe the customer service isn't there. So I think just kind of depending on what you're doing and what your strategy is, you know, it doesn't have to be one or the other. Like it could be both depending on the situation.
Yeah, and I like the middle of the road answer too. Peter, what's your opinion on this?
Large is easier. I think small, the question, if you're not a very large retailer with a big budget is, you know, does it integrate? Is it open API? So.
Great. And Christina?
I'm going to have to concur. It depends on what the project is. It depends on what the need is. And it also depends on the technical ability of your team in-house. So if you don't have the technical ability to, you know, merge APIs successfully and make those calls on a regular basis, then you need a larger company who can do that for you. So it depends on the need and the scope.
Great. Well, we are in between everyone and happy hour, so we have about 5 to 10 minutes for Q&A. But before you get out of here, I'm going to spice it up a little bit. And the spiciest question in Q&A gets a limited edition glass bottle of Fireball along with Chili's gift cards and Buffalo Wild Wings. Isn't that clever, right? So we'd like to open it up to Q&A. So anyone have any questions for our panelists today? Yes?
We're having a pretty bad, we have an urban store, and we're having a really bad theft problem. I'm wondering if anybody's kind of done anything to expand the technology into some kind of, it's pulling out the door.
Yeah.
So shrink and theft.
Shriek and theft in urban stores. We definitely have experienced the same thing. I think all retailers can attest to the fact that our shrink numbers have gone up, and we're not happy about it. So what we've done, we've swapped out our cameras. I know it seems small, but we really have, and we've gotten these extremely high-tech cameras where we can like zoom in to even see the UPC on an item, which is fantastic. And our DVRs, we swap those out too, and our retention time is much longer. So we have increased our video review so that we can see people who are doing this multiple times. We're also working very closely with law enforcement in the area, and they don't care about single offenders, just be honest, they're very busy, this is St. Louis, right? But they do, listen, but they do, they are partnering with us on repeat offenders. So we're able to share data with local officials and police, in order to have them help us keep those particular people out of our stores.
Billy?
Our loss prevention and risk management team recently rolled out these almost like tower boxes that sit in the parking lots for stores where we've had incidents of loitering or maybe high theft or shrink. And that has been a deterrent that I would say has been successful over, a pretty short test period. With it being outside, it gets people to kind of like stay away from the building. Like they don't even come in now, like some of the people that were coming in and taking stuff.
Peter, do you have any experience on this?
Nothing more to add on that one.
Okay. Any other questions from the audience? Yes?
All right, awesome panel. What's the spiciest, most effective marketing campaign you've seen from brands lately?
Oh, from brands. That's a good question. Spiciest marketing from brands in general. Put you on the spot here.
Okay, so the spiciest marketing, does it have to be a C-store?
No. I think
Any brand?
in general? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think everyone saw, there was a very interesting alcohol company that had a very interesting campaign. And it was very interesting what happened after the fact, just totally interesting.
This wouldn't be in your hometown.
Oh
would it?
my God. And it's, some rebranding that they're trying right now that's also very, very interesting. I think that's the spiciest thing I've ever seen in my life, to be honest with you. And wow, did that impact sales? My goodness, did it impact anybody else's? It was just the St. Louis market? It definitely had an impact on sales. So I think
answer.
everybody caught where I was going with that one. So that would be the most interesting thing I think I've ever seen.
Coors Light, right?
No, not Coors Light. But they definitely benefited from that spicy marketing campaign.
Yeah, no, that's good. Peter, do you have anything that comes to mind?
That's a hard one to top. It touches on the topic from earlier, right? As an organization, if you take a stance and how you take a stance, what can happen. So I wish that brand luck.
Great. Do we have any other questions from the audience? Yes.
Scan-based trading, as that's become more and more popular.
Of course, very, very.
From a vendor's perspective, how do you protect the vendor, not from the theft that we have to deal with and shrink with consumers coming in and taking product out? In-store, employee theft, where is, let's talk about spicy things that one wants to talk
I
about.
love it.
How
You
do
got
we
gift
meet
cards on the line here.
everyone's needs on that when it comes to scan-based trading?
Oh, I love it. That's a great question.
It's got to be win-win for both, right? But for a vendor, let's just say you're delivering a packaged goods. If your driver doesn't have to wait to be scanned in and they can keep moving, get more deliveries in the day, I mean, that's the win. And hopefully there's a good shared economics on, what the shrink is for that. But that alone, just to keep that driver moving, that's the win.
I would agree. To be honest with you, we moved to scan-based trading with vendors that we already had an established relationship with and existing data. So they already knew what to expect as far as sales were concerned. So it wasn't a mystery to them what our monthly, quarterly, annual sales for that particular product should be. So if something was off, then it actually helped us investigate that theft a little faster because they could notice it in their numbers, maybe sometimes faster than we could see it. So we've seen it as a mutually beneficial partnership.
And I would agree with that. I think that scan-based trading has a lot of advantages, but it can only be fair to the retailer or fair to the vendor. So we started scan-based trading a little differently. We rolled out a whole new product line about 1.5 years ago. And we knew that there was high potential for theft. This was kind of like OTP vape items. So we put a process in place where the store managers did weekly counts, and there was always kind of updated data going through there. And we've achieved over $3 million in sales and about $1.7 million in margin just through that program in about 1.5 years.
Awesome.
That's amazing. Okay, we have time for one more question before we go enjoy happy hour. Anyone else have a question for the panel? Yes.
If you could elevate one beverage or
I'm
sales and presence, what would you
If you could elevate one food or beverage item,
yeah, which one needs to turn up the heat the most?
which one? I like that. Nice. Which one would you try to elevate more? Food or beverage item at your store? If you could really put some fire behind it, if you will. Anything. Coffee, whatever you want.
For us at Stinker, I would say the Roller Grill program, that's kind of the tried and true, what people think of historically for food service operations within C-stores and gas stations.
How many of your stores have roller grills?
About 100 of the 110. So,
Wow. So like 90%.
yeah, and we don't want to take roller grills away. We're doing a lot more out of the hot case and the cold case, but there's certainly a consumer and demographic that really loves that roller grill and they'll wipe it out. But for us, once again, we just went through a huge project where we branded kind of the backboards with proprietary Pete's Eats logos and whatnot, put digital monitors above, and those elements are the same elements that tie in across the whole store. So just dressing that area up, making it look like a higher quality item, and sourcing the right components. We're doing all Angus hot dogs, kind of very high
What made
quality.
you want to do that? Was that just like a conscious decision as a team, or like consumers were asking for this?
For me, it was just tying the different aspects of the brand of Stinker together.
Like a quality, like you wanted a quality product? kind of
Yeah, I
thing?
want people to look at our roller grills and see the same type of quality they get when they taste an Angus burger or hand-breaded and battered chicken tenders, basically.
And that's something that can stand out against just other typical roller grill products. That's great. Do you want to pick a food service or beverage item?
Sure. I would say the slushie, the humble slushie. Everyone loves a slushie, right? Children love it. That's how they get hooked, right? We're trying to get these kids early, right? And we
Spicy,
want to
very
get them with the
spicy.
slushies,
You know, like a Fireball
right? Oh my
slushie.
God. No, well, not for the kids, So, but I would say the slushie. We need like a better cup. Number one, so we can tell it's a slushie because they're putting that in regular cups. I don't know if y'all knew, So better cups, and something really fun and fresh for spring and summer so people can get, excited about the slushie. We make great margins on slushies. So I think that could use a little elevation.
Peter, what do you think? What's going to be elevated here in the future from your perspective?
It depends on the brand, but generally beverage all around. So I think if we want to compete with McDonald's, Dunkin', Starbucks, can you do that with self-service only? Maybe, but that's an area I think where, if elevated, the upside's huge.
You know what? I know we got to go, but
Oh, no,
I
no,
love
that's fine.
that answer because during the pandemic, COVID, right? But during the pandemic, we had to go to serving coffee out of several of our county locations because they couldn't do the self-service anymore. So we moved everything behind the counter and we were pouring the coffee in a cup and mixing in the cream and sugar for people, and they loved that experience. So it could be that there comes a point in time when we have to have a more barista-like experience in our stores, especially for millennials and Gen Z who love Starbucks. These children come out of the womb loving Starbucks these days. So we have to, cater to that Starbucks market.
Great. Well, can everyone please help me thank our panelists today? I really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you guys at the happy hour. Thanks for joining us today.
Who gets your